Become a tax-free millionaire. Why you need a TFSA in Canada. If you're someone who lives in Canada and isn't using the TFSA, I urge you to hear this entire video from start to finish. It could really change your life. It's really important that you sign up for the TFSA as soon as you can and put as much money into it as soon as you can. Right now, that amount is $6,000 per year starting from the age of 18 years old. Me not fully participating in the TFSA and not taking it seriously when I was 18 was a huge mistake and cost me maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, in investment opportunity. That is pretty much worth an arm or a leg's worth of money. So if you can learn from my mistakes, I highly recommend you to watch this entire video from start to finish. In this video, I'll be explaining exactly what a TFSA is and why it's so important to making millions as an average person in Canada. This is the type of video that makes all the time you spend on YouTube completely worthwhile. If you're someone who lives in Canada, I encourage you to share this video with others like you as well. So what is a TFSA? The TFSA stands for Tax-Free Savings Account. It's a type of investment account in Canada only available for people with a valid social insurance number, or SIN number, and are at least 18 years old. Note that it doesn't require you to be a Canadian citizen in order to sign up. Starting at the age of 18 years old, current rules state that you can put up to $6,000 per year into the TFSA. Once you have decided to deposit money into the TFSA, you can buy investments within the account to generate investment income. Normally, when you generate any kind of income, you get taxed. But because the investment income is generated within the TFSA, it is completely protected from taxes and the income is tax-free. This means you pay zero tax on years and years of investment income that you generate. But what about the money that you deposit into the TFSA? Don't worry, that won't be taxed at all either. I mean, you already paid it once when you earned it from your job, so there's no need to tax it again for a second time. So what's the potential here? You could potentially make hundreds of thousands of dollars tax-free, if not millions, just by opening up a TFSA and contributing to it. Just to give you an example of the effect of investing as early as you can in the TFSA with average performance. You invest $1,000 in a TFSA as an 18-year-old. By the time you become 65 years old, that $1,000 will have grown to become $37,232. Remember that all this money is completely tax-free as long as it's within the TFSA. But look at this. If you invested that same $1,000 but at 25 years old instead of 18, that $1,000 will have only grown to $21,724 by the time you're 65. I mean, it's still a lot of money, but that means that the difference of starting 7 years later can cause over $15,000 in difference by the time you're 65 years old. A $15,000 difference, in this case, is 15 times your initial investment of $1,000. This is why you should do this as early as possible, especially if you're young and not really earning a lot of money. But right now, we're just talking about a one-time investment of $1,000. What if you put in the full allowable amount of $6,000 per year and actually do it every year? By the time you're 65 years old, you can become a multi-millionaire. Using average performance again, you would have almost $3 million to be exact. And let's say you get slightly better than average returns and invested in something as simple as TD Bank, and TD Bank does it again. By the time you're 65 years old, you would be an even bigger multimillionaire, almost 8 million to be exact. The whole TFSA concept, beyond what I've just told you, can be slightly confusing at the start, so I'll try to explain it as best as I can. So let's talk about contributing to a TFSA. Say you're 18 years old and start working at Shoppers Drug Mart, where you've managed to save up $1,000 from your paychecks. Because you are 18 years old, you're now old enough to sign up for a TFSA. I highly recommend signing up at Questrade because it's really cheap and really easy to use. My referral link will be in the description. There's also a code I found online for $88 in savings at Questrade. Once you have opened the account, you can transfer that $1,000 of savings into the TFSA. Putting money into the account is called making a contribution. So let's say that $1,000 that you contributed is invested and it grows to $1,200 the next year. That extra $200 you made is called your earnings. Because it is earned in the TFSA. It is all tax-free earnings. This is the earnings that's going to help you make even more tax-free earnings, because now you have an extra $200 that's not going to be taxed that can then go work for you and make even more money for you. Recall that I said you're only allowed to contribute $6,000 per year. Well, you've only contributed $1,000 so far. That means you have $5,000 in contribution space remaining. If you manage to save that amount of money, or get an allowance or inheritance, you're more than welcome to contribute it to the TFSA too. Actually, I highly encourage you to do it. Look, if you can generate $200 of earnings with a $1,000 investment, then with a full $6,000 investment, you would generate $1,200 of earnings. If you're making minimum wage from Shoppers Drug Mart, after you pay income taxes and deductions, that $1,200 of investment earnings that you generated within the TFSA translates to almost 105 working hours of your life. But let's say you didn't have that additional $5,000 to contribute to the TFSA. Fast forward to next year, you get an additional $6,000 in contribution space. But wait, you had $5,000 of space from the previous year. Guess what? They stack. So now you have $11,000 in contribution space. If you can generate $200 of earnings with a $1,000 investment, which is 20%, then with a $12,000 investment, you would generate $2,400 of earnings. That's the size of most people's paychecks in a month. And don't forget, it's all tax-free. Unfortunately, usually what happens for most people, especially younger people, is that they don't have a lot of money saved to contribute, and they wait until they have a full-time career. Let's say you really do wait until the day you start a full-time career, say 23 years old. You would have 5 years of contribution space, which is $30,000. If you're someone who is older than 18, to get an exact number for your own contribution space, you can use the contribution calculator link in my description. So what's the potential of reinvested earnings? Most people think like this. They generate income from their job and then they spend it on whatever they want. The same often applies to investments. They make earnings from their investments, or a big home run swing, like Tesla. Then they cash out by selling their investment. They withdraw that money and then they spend it on whatever. Ideally, the real power of investments, especially in the TFSA, is when you keep the investment earnings within the account and buy even more investments so that you can generate even more investment earnings. Investment earnings growing on investment earnings, growing on investment earnings is called compound interest. You can visualize compound interest as a virus outbreak effect, where one person infected becomes 2, then 2 becomes 4, then 4 becomes 8, and so forth until you have the Walking Dead. As you do this in a TFSA, it's all completely tax-free, and it just snowballs from there and grows to something absolutely enormous with time. I know most people watching this will just go about their day after without doing anything, like signing up or putting any money to work. But from what we learn when a virus breaks out, is that all it takes for it to explode is to at least start with one infection. If you want the TFSA to work in your favor, you need to at least start with something, anything. If you want real life-changing results, then put as much as you can under your contribution limitations. So I wanted to show you a real-life example of compound interest at work. Let's use Bill Gates. Everyone wishes they were as rich as Bill Gates because he has billions of dollars. The reason why Bill Gates is so rich is not only because he's the founder of Microsoft, but because he has kept his investment in a good growing company like Microsoft for the longest time compared to anyone else, which is 45 years. He's essentially a day one ride or die kind of guy. Since the day Microsoft came onto the stock market in 1986, it has done incredibly well. If you have made a one-time investment of $1,000 in Microsoft on its first day of the stock market, your investment would have grown to $2.75 million, which is equivalent to 2,750 times your money. It's also the same as saying if your money grew by 25% each year for 33 years since 1986. You might be wondering, the good old early days of investing in companies like Microsoft have passed, and they can't grow like that anymore. That's incorrect. Companies like Microsoft and Apple and Amazon and Facebook, they still grow at pretty high rates. Let's say Microsoft doubled in value today. Do you think Bill Gates is selling out like everyone else? No. He's probably hoping for Microsoft to go another 1,000 times in value. This is usually how it is for all the world's billionaires, which is how they became billionaires in the first place. Billionaires really believe in their investment, put their money where their mouth is, and hold on to the day they die. If they ever need money, maybe they'll sell a bit of their shares, or receive some passive dividends, but that's about it. There's a lot about investing that you can learn from rich people. Really, it's just having the conviction to buy something and buy a lot of it, and then keep holding on so that it can keep growing over time. The benefit with the TFSA is that you can withdraw the money from your account at any time. So for instance, if you want to use the money to buy something small like a Big Mac meal, or if you decide in a couple years that you want to make a major purchase like a house, then you're more than welcome to withdraw from your TFSA at any time. There's a bit more restrictions to putting that withdrawn money back in. So I really treat the TFSA as more of a savings account where you can put your money in it, and if you really need it in the future, you can always take it out. To be honest, speaking about myself, I never ever withdraw. Never. And the reason is because I want my money to keep working for me. Kind of like Bill Gates, I'm going to wait until I reach millions of dollars and enjoy the passive income. But let's talk about a scenario where you plan to withdraw money. We'll use your account example of $1,000. Okay, so you deposited $1,000 into the TFSA on your 18th birthday, and in a couple of months you made some quick gains inside, so it becomes $1,200. You decide to withdraw that $1,200 from your TFSA and spend it, so now your TFSA has $0. Remember, you still have $5,000 in contribution space this year since you've already put in $1,000, and you're only allowed to contribute $6,000 per year. From your job at Shoppers, let's say you manage to save another $1,000 throughout the year. You decide to put this second $1,000 stack in the TFSA, meaning your TFSA now has $1,000 inside. This also means that you have a contribution space of $4,000 left this year because you have made this additional contribution. Let's fast forward to the next year, January 1st. Recall the $1,200 that you withdrew last year? The contribution space comes back by the time it becomes January 1st. So what's your new contribution space now? You ended the prior year with $4,000 of space. The $1,200 you withdrew comes back on January 1st. And it's the new year, so you get another $6,000 of space. In total, that's $11,200 in contribution space. So that's about it. In terms of what you can invest in for your TFSA, there's so many good companies out there. I made these two videos recently if you want some Canadian investment ideas. Usually I recommend people to invest in companies that they know and have confidence will grow in the long term, like 10 plus years. And also, if you want to familiarize yourself with ETFs, you're also welcome to do that too. I just feel that in terms of individual companies, more people will be interested and they have more confidence in what they're actually investing in, knowing that they have a piece of a business that they're putting their money in.